Lieutenant, are we expecting any problems tonight? Are we expecting any problems at the school board? Where's the rest of the guys?
Cute.
Here.
Yes.
Okay. Who's the captain? Oh, that's right. Yeah. Kevin?
We'd have to test it out in advance, like on Friday.
Probably Andrew.
Kevin?
She's been sitting in the
We
back.
had 20
Ready? Okay. So just gotta get that.
I don't know, I haven't.
Hey, you bring the dog in and do a little picnic.
I'm taking my purse out of here.
Not tonight. No, not tonight.
Everybody needs your backpacks.
No, I will not.
Why not tonight?
Bob, do you see all your stuff here next to the room? K-9's gonna be
What?
I
am.
have.
Well, look at the time.
Are you still keeping your stuff in the truck? Your little stash?
You know what they say?
Like,
Cops have the second best stuff.
totally.
Nice, right hand in there. It'll be silver. Nice.
I know, choosing years in that position.
Apparently you fell down on your way here?
Actually, I got a shot of course.
Oh!
So,
Oh.
Did they freeze it first? Yeah. That's amazing how that,
it's
spray that on there, you don't even feel that needle going in.
No.
you just see
It's one of the.
Don't even know what it's at all. Yeah.
Does it feel like a tennis ball?
Make sure you're doing it right.
Does it feel like a tennis ball when
What
you
do you
get
think,
that?
Bruce?
Yeah, it's enough.
All right. I'd like to call to order the school board meeting of August 18th. Eric, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This meeting has been posted. Approval of the agenda.
Second.
One change, we're going to, after the superintendent's report, we're going to move to item 5C and then continue on with the agenda after that. Any objections? Hearing none, all those in favor of the agenda as stated, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. Consent agenda.
Second.
Any items for separate consideration? Hearing none, all those in favor of consent agenda state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Superintendent's report.
Okay, we'll start with recognizing Coach Emma up here.
Coach.
Thank you. Thank you.
We want to recognize you with on your recent induction, I guess you would refer to the Hall of Fame. So we have a resolution that we have for you, and I'll read it. The Muskego Norway School Board congratulates Robert Dominowski on his induction into the Wisconsin Football Coaches Association Hall of Fame, being recognized by his peers in the Wisconsin Football Coaches Association for outstanding achievement. Robert has served the youth of Muskego High School as an assistant football coach since the 1990-91 school year. During this time, he has provided continued guidance and perseverance to the Muskego High School athletes participating in the sport of football. The Muskego Norway School Board hereby commends Robert Dominowski for his oh boy, she's using words that are bigger than my vocabulary. Service for coaching ability that engages students to perform to the highest level obtainable on and off the field. Signed at Muskego, Wisconsin, this 18th day of August, 2014. Coach Dom, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I just want to take a couple minutes to say a couple of words. It was actually 78 when I first started coaching, so it's been 34, 35 years, whatever it is now. But I do appreciate this acknowledgement. It's, you know, you very seldom you get to do something for a long time that you really love to do. And I do love this. Coach Kang has hired me out of necessity. There's a teacher that left early or something that year, so he needed a coach right away. I was going to school, so I could work it into my schedule. So I thought it was going to be a couple years. Well, it was like 35 or 36. But for a job that I actually get paid for, I would do it for nothing forever, because it's something the kids that you see for the last 35 years. Now I'm coaching the parents' kids, so it's an attrition of every year we have 5 or 6 kids that I coach their dad. I always tell those kids, be better than your dad, and good things will happen. But really, again, I really appreciate this. I don't know if it's deserved, but I really appreciate you acknowledge that. I've been out here for 30-some years, and it's something I really love to do, and it's been fun to be with these young men. And actually, I got to get back to practice. So, Warriors, thank you.
Any questions? Did you have your induction already, or when?
No, that is actually March 29th up in Madison at the state high school football clinic. So it'll be end of March.
Congratulations.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Before we hang up, we got to get a picture.
Oh, sure.
Here, we'll get out of the microphone. Okay, thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh, should we change here?
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Re-sign it.
Put your name in it.
Oh, I didn't. Okay, so a couple of other items under finish with superintendent's report.
That's what I was going to say.
Okay.
Do you want to finish
All
that?
right, sure. Okay. With regard, just a reminder that we have a board work session on September 15th to plan for our year with regard to master planning. WASB has a Regional 11 meeting September 18th. I plan to attend if anybody would like to join me. I know Brett's come along in the past, so anybody else, love to have you with me. A couple of other things. September 8th, Jeremiah will be giving an update on the weight room and the art rooms at the high school. And actually, the weight room looks great, and they've got all the equipment in there, and it just looks fabulous for our strength and conditioning program. Last week, we had all of our classroom teachers in at least one of the days last week, and so Dawn, if you want to just give us a quick update on what that looked like for our teachers?
Sure. So it was K-12, various groups were brought in. At the elementary level, it was all classroom teachers and special education teachers in for 3 days of literacy learning, diving into our standards and our grade level expectations, along with the new units of study that were developed and are being implemented this year, really with that goal and target of helping every student achieve proficiency by the end of the year with their grade level expectations. Those sessions were led by the coaches and the reading teachers, and a couple of our own classroom teachers as well. And we had really a lot of positive feedback from that elementary session. And one of the teachers even wrote me over the weekend and said it was the best professional development she has ever attended, and she's been teaching for quite a while. So that was very affirming, and the teachers walked away with some new learning. Then at the middle and the high school, it was divided up a little bit differently. At the middle level, They had one day for all mathematics instructors that came in, then one day for disciplinary literacy, which means teaching literacy across all the content areas. So it was all full staff. It was everybody on board to learn how they could support reading. And then the third day was on literacy instruction for our literacy teachers. So again, really positive feedback from those participants. And then finally, the high school, we had all staff and then varied groups that are going to be participating in the AVID work that you have heard a bit about, participating in staff development there. And the third day culminated with quite a few of our very own high school staff members facilitating breakout sessions on topics of high interest for teachers. And so again, very well received opportunity there. So just a really powerful way to get teachers energized about new things to start the year.
It was really very engaging and high positive energy from teachers. It was what they needed to start the school year, and it wasn't just the day before the school started. So the timing was just perfect. Tomorrow we start with our new teachers at the high school, and they'll be here for 3 days. Again, any board members who would like to join us for breakfast from 7:30 to 8. I know Chris and Bob and Rick will be there. If you'd like to join, there'll be plenty of food. And then we start our program and our bus tour and all of those things tomorrow, and then lots of learning over the next 3 days. And then the following week, all staff will come back on August 26th. And again, board members are invited to attend. I do have a couple of board members who indicated that they will be there. We start at 7:30. We have a program at the PAC from 7:30 to 8:30-ish. We start our wellness program. We have a snack, and you all receive that email. So again, you're invited to participate in any or all of that day as well. So, and then really the year will begin quickly thereafter. So thank you. That ends the superintendent's report.
All right, thank you. And we're going to jump forward to item 5C under resolution action items, policy number 5771.
Motion to approve the third reading of policy number 5771 and administrative guidelines, school and student safety searches.
Can I have a motion?
I'll move.
Second.
Discussion.
So the board had a number of questions and comments and discussion over the last two discussion items around this policy. So we did collect additional data. So attached is the data from the Muskego High School SRO, and also a summary of our Infinite Campus related to violations related to drugs. And then we did have our attorneys write a summary document related to case law, applicable law, and their conclusion, and added a preamble essentially at the start of the use of drugs under our search policy. So that information is available, and then also in talking with Lieutenant Constantino last week, we had the opportunity to invite him to come if there were questions from the standpoint of operations or anything with regard to canine searches. He would be available along with Officer Dietrich. Thank you both for being here. Appreciate
Thank you. Last meeting, you kind of spearheaded a lot of the discussion with some of your concerns. Where are you today?
Well, yeah, very funny.
I didn't bring my glasses.
Well, I appreciate the response from the attorneys. That was helpful. And the data. So where am I at today? I mean, I guess you can look at data and interpret it different ways. The way that I look at the data, I mean, I'm looking at the memo that sets forth the canine search. Well, first of all, if you look at just the Muskego High School drug case data, 2009 to 2014. And I was just looking at municipal cases. I think to me it looks steady and then it drops. And then the Waukesha County cases drop. And then what I see on the canine searches is minuscule hits. And when they are hits, they appear to be minimal. Trace marijuana, no evidence recovered, no evidence recovered, no evidence recovered. So while, again, I appreciate what council believes of building the record, I myself don't think we have a record that justifies it and makes it reasonable. But I'm just one person on the board. So I would like to watch this year, similar to what we're doing with Mr. Kugi, and see what happens, right? So we're implementing the random drug testing. We don't know. You know, Eric has a prediction maybe of where this might fall. We'll see. And I guess I would be more comfortable that if we start to build some strong data showing positives, I'd be more inclined to do that, but I'm not comfortable with the data I see here.
Anyone else have any feedback, thoughts, comments, side remarks?
I'm just, since this was changed a bit, we will still be going into the classrooms, but we will not be asking them to leave their purses, whatever.
No, we haven't changed any of the language regarding that they may be asked to leave their backpacks and bags. We've just added a statement at the start where it says use of dogs, and it just indicates that there is a reason for us to be doing these types of searches.
Is it simple enough to, when the police, or before they enter, to just ask, take your belongings with you, or is that, or if you were to, prior to the, the students being asked to leave the room, they just asked to bring their belongings with it? Would that satisfy the person?
We're asking, what's the point then, if we're asking them to take them?
Yes, I'm just trying to satisfy that. I too, like Lisa, would prefer nothing to match our response, obviously. But so I'm anxious to see what happens this year. But I was just curious if you lessen the the wallet or the purse, but why can't you bring a purse? I don't know. Does that matter?
I think then you probably have other problems. So, if you were going to do it, I think that probably the way it's set forth is the way you would do it. And to be sure, I don't have, this is new. Everything else with the policy, I'm standing 100% behind the way we've always done things. This is, again, just this particular edition.
So my thought is that I really kind of honed in on the conclusion from our attorneys. And I totally understand paragraph 2. I think we could show Muskego and Waukesha County having a significant increase in heroin and opiate use, including deaths, in the recent history. I think that's undeniable. Mine is I'm cautious. I'm trying to wrap my mind around the first paragraph, that what we have shown to be violations within our district is enough to show significant evidence that we have an issue or a problem that raises to the level of searching rooms where children are, or kids are, or teenagers are, by asking them, interrupting the school day to asking them to leave, even if it's for 5 or 10 minutes, leaving their belongings behind. I'm struggling with that we would win that if there was a challenge. And then I kind of went back and reflected back to not truly having a Wisconsin or District 7 case that would support our efforts. And I understand other school districts are doing it. I just don't know if I want to take the chance of spending money, district money, on an appeal if in fact someone challenges this. Because I don't know if we can really stand firm on that the district has a known problem. Is there a problem? There very well could be. Do we know it? Have we shown it? Have we documented in data that there is one here? I feel more comfortable that our community as a whole in Waukesha County has a problem, which would lead me to be okay with canine searches, but I'm not sure that we've shown that kids are bringing it to the level. They're bringing it here at times, but are they bringing it to the level that we want to take this next step? And I don't think I'm there yet, to be honest with you. But I don't want to stop anything we're already doing.
Right. All we would, if that was the wish of the board, we would just take out the new language, or we could leave that in. I mean, really, it doesn't really change. The new language under use of dogs, that's underlined. And we could take out then the fourth paragraph, which specifically states that we would ask students to leave their backpacks behind.
I'm not too sure I even want, right now, and I'm not exactly sure how we do it in this district, but what I'm familiar with is there is really no disruption to students during canine searches other than they are in their classroom setting and they're not allowed to move around for their safety. I'm not too sure I'm really keen yet on the idea of even entering or displacing people even with their belongings.
For same reasons you stated previously?
Yeah.
That paragraph, eliminating that paragraph would eliminate that option.
Yeah.
So what paragraph are we looking at?
So under use of dogs, there is, so on the page 3 of 4, the first paragraph is the new language indicating that the board believes there's reason for us to be doing these types of searches. That could stay or go out. It's new language from our attorneys. Then it's, you know, the reasons we would be, the conditions that we would use dogs. Then the next is the principal shall be responsible, and the one that starts with on occasion, that paragraph could be removed, and we would be in the same position we are currently in with regard to conducting canine searches, which is really a sweeping of the halls and our parking lots.
Are there other districts that are moving, usually when we start moving in a certain direction, it's because a consensus is in this area or in the state that other districts are also doing this, so we should be moving forward. Is there other districts that are doing this, or?
Well, the reason we brought this forward was because it was something that came up in the parent survey a number of times, saying why don't we do more searches of classrooms and personal belongings and things like that. So that's the reason we looked at it.
Okay.
Candace, our school resource officer, did do, asked, I believe it was, she was the one that asked other school districts if they had it in Greenfield, New Berlin, just one of the high schools in New Berlin, and Oconomowoc, do the classroom searches. Now, they conduct them differently. Now, I think one of the three asks, the administrator asked them to leave their belongings behind. The other two just say, you need to leave. If they leave their belongings behind, you know, under their own volition, then they'll be, you know, sniffed. But otherwise, if they take them, they take them, and it wouldn't be looked at wrongly. Nobody's asking them to leave it. But the disruption of the class is occurring, and so certainly, I have no problem bringing this back in a year and a half, 2 years, you know, whenever the board is comfortable, if we want to enhance our canine searches to include this type of search.
Actually, to be honest, I really don't have a problem other than if a student does not want to leave their bag. That's, I think, where we're stepping on a fine line.
Don't you think, Brett, that after the first couple, 2 or 3, there's going to be a general understanding throughout
that they're going to take it?
That if you're ever asked to leave your room, make sure you take your belongings with you.
Possibly. But I don't know how sensitive the dog's noses are. If there's a backpack that has a drug in it, that had a drug in it, and somebody took it, would the dog be able to make a hit on it?
Well, no, if it's not there.
And I think just...
Backpack's not there.
I know, but if they go up to a desk and, hey, wait.
Although we don't really, in high school, we don't really have true...
We don't have
But now we're pulling it back even further, saying, hey, just have it on your body, unless there's a reason to be searched. You know, unless you're selling a drug and somebody sees it, you know, I think it's just another level that...
But if they keep it on their body, they're still going to be fine. It's just a matter if they keep it on their belongings that they carry with them, there might be an issue.
Yeah.
So there's still a message there that if you keep it on your person and leave the room.
I think this scales it back at least somewhat, that if there is an issue that, hey, if I have this and we have a canine search today, it might be detected and I might be caught. Versus, well, they're just not going to search the room, so I'm fine. I know it's not much more, but I think it's enough that maybe they'll think twice about bringing the drug into school, which is primarily where I'm getting at. So,
Officer Dietrich or Lieutenant, do you want to add anything before we?
Come on up to the microphone.
Yeah, please come up to the microphone and talk. But maybe walk us through how you're doing it now. I mean, none of us are in the school, so.
Well, we started doing these canine searches a number of years ago. When we started doing it, the first time we hit, I believe we had 14 hits on cars. We made several arrests. Since that time, we've expanded to go into the hallways and do locker sniffs. And each time, it seems like we've had less and less hits. Now, as I talked with Dr. Thompson, just because we don't find anything in a car or a locker doesn't mean that it wasn't in there. I use the analogy of riding on an airplane. You sit down next to somebody, you know immediately that he smokes cigarettes. It's not because he's lighting up. His cigarettes are probably in his bag down in a hold, but you know because of the smell. It's the same thing with the dog. They hit on those cars, and even though there may just be what we call shake, just residue on the floor or nothing at all, 9 times out of 10 when we interview those kids, they will admit that at least somebody has been smoking in their car. They'll never say it's them, but it's a friend or a brother or a friend of the brother. It's the same thing with the lockers. You know, if you're around somebody or you were smoking, your coat's in there or your jacket is in there, it's going to be a hit. So that's where we get those hits from. What we've been finding is the kids are adapting, and it's exactly what you've been talking about. We do the search of the cars, or now we're doing the lockers. They know that. They know after 3 or 4 people got busted for it, hey, I better not keep that in my car. And same thing with lockers. I better not keep it in there. They're not going to come. They know the dog can't come to them. And we haven't been searching the backpacks or any of their properties, so that's where they're keeping it. Obviously nobody is saying that that nobody in the school is using drugs. We know that that's not the case. But we're not finding the drugs because they're adapting to our way of working. You know, we changed our tactics, they're changing theirs, so we need to continue to evolve. I understand all of the concerns and the arguments here. Our position as a police department is we will do whatever you as a school district want us to do. We are here to help you. It is your search. It is your policy. We come in at your request to assist you with it. But if we just say because we haven't had a lot of hits, we aren't having, that might signify that the problem isn't getting worse. I can tell you for a fact that our drug arrests in the city as a whole are exploding. So I think that the kids are adapting to our tactics, and we need to start adapting our tactics and changing it up. Now, as I don't know who said it, the goal here, I believe, is that there not be any drugs in the school. Again, we would be naive to say that there is no Muskego student who's using drugs. Our goal, or your goal, is to make sure they're not doing it in school. that's where we're at right now. The only place that they can hold that drug right now, because we search their cars and we search their lockers, the only place they can do it is on their person or in their backpacks. So we need to make it more uncomfortable so that they'll go, okay, well, if I want to smoke my weed, I'm going to have to do it at home, or I'm going to have to do it here or there, but I better not do it at school because I got a chance that I can get busted. So that's the position that the police department has with that.
So their tactics that they're deploying now could be one. They could either be keeping it on themselves or in their backpacks, or not bringing it to school.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I get, we don't want to interrupt, disrupt the school. Anyway, how long would you say that it would take for you to do a classroom that's full of backpacks?
It wouldn't take us long at all.
5 minutes? Yeah, because it's around, if you get a hit on a backpack, you were going to grab the pack and take it out and get that classroom back in there. And obviously we're not going to be doing 10 or 12. We're going to do whichever classrooms you ask us to do. So.
See, I guess my position is either we do it and we tell them to leave their belongings, or we don't do it. Because if we go in there, if we're doing this and we're telling them not to bring their belongings, within the first couple searches, they're going to know to take their belongings with them. And then basically it is doing an empty room, or they may throw something before they leave, and the dog will find it and will have no ownership.
But then it's gone. I mean, that's 10 or 20 or 30 or $100 that is gone out of their possession. So
but
it's taking a hit there.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. I mean, excuse me, that doesn't matter to those kids. That part really doesn't matter to them. The consequence of getting arrested and maybe even getting fined, that might not do it. It's the school consequences and all that other. Some of them, they don't care, period. And I'm sure they've all been before you here on other matters. Some kids just don't care. But there's the whole, I agree with Eric that you got to go one way or the other. If you eventually they're going to adapt. And even if you adopt this policy the way it's written, eventually they're going to adapt. And we're going to have to adapt to that. That's just the game that we play. So we'll have to work on it. So that's just...
So you're saying, now these aren't your words, but so you want to, based on your words that you need to evolve, or I guess the students adapt to the existing searches, so then the police department needs to evolve to try to be more proactive and catch it. Basically how they're, or the students are basically getting wise to the searches. So by leaving the backpacks, so that what we have in the policy of, and I'm not sure how you do it, so you walk in the classroom and it's basically, all right, everyone on their feet and maybe not as direct, but and then leave all your belongings, everything that's not fastened to your person, leave and then exit. And that would be evolving right now, because now they're being asked to leave those belongings. And if the dog picked up a scent, is it possible then that would be, was that shake, there'd be shake? And then would you actually go question that student then?
Yeah, what will happen is the search would be directed by the school administrators. They would go in, direct the students, whatever they decide, leave your bags, leave your purse, leave your, however you want to do it, whatever your language says. The students would leave. Then we would come in at the request of the school administration. We would do the search. If we find a bag that the dog indicates positively on, we will take that bag. And with the assistance of the administrators, we will search the bag. There may not be anything in there. There may be, like you said, there may be shake, residue. There may be, 10 pounds, or there may be absolutely nothing at all. We're still going to talk with that student. We owe that to that student if for no other reason to say, hey, and it's always, well, my brother used my backpack, or that, I was with some guys that were smoking and I wasn't, but they were, type of thing. If nothing else, we've put them on notice that.
Based on your history, on your experience, you mentioned that when you do the car searches in the parking lot, 9 times out of 10, after questioning the student, it's revealed. Right? Would you expect that same response here?
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know Sean, he was a school resource officer at Bay Lane. He was our our narcotics investigator for 6 years, and now he's our canine handler. So he can tell you more about the conversations with the kids because he did them than I did. So.
Yeah, 9 times out of 10, it comes out eventually either, my friend was in the car and he had it, and I was driving and everybody else was smoking, wasn't me kind of thing. It almost always comes out. And usually the ones when it doesn't come out, or at Candy Wins, because we've had interactions with them outside of school for the same type of issues. So, there's always a reason the dog's not hitting on the Cheetos, He has no interest in that, especially mine. He doesn't care about food at all. So he's indicating on a car, he's indicating for a reason. And smoking in the car, 3, 4, more than a week at times. If it's a cloth-type fabric, it's going to hold that smell in. And we'll find a little shake on the floor, or you find some of the other paraphernalia or other indicators that show that there was drug use in the car, even though there might not be any drugs in the car at that time. So.
Can I ask a real quick question since you're up here? Can you step up to the microphone too?
Sure.
So if you go into a room, and I'm asking the resource officer here, and a kid absolutely insists on taking their backpack, does that give you a red flag?
Yes.
So that's another thing, if they're constantly, if they go into the room, they're taking their bag, that's another little, a little tool, but it's still something.
But if you have directed them to keep their bag in there, and 3 or 4 kids go, there's not a whole lot. Because what's he going to say? Oh, you didn't tell me I couldn't take it. What's the problem?
Well, I think if they go in and and say leave your stuff and.
Well, yeah, absolutely. If they're told to leave it, absolutely, yeah. But then it's going to be up to the administration and the administrators to decide how they're going to handle that. No, it's staying here, or you put that bag down. However, the administrators want to handle it. That's entirely up to the school.
Yeah, and my personal feeling, I know I'm only one of 7 here, is that if we go in, the administrator says leave your stuff and go, just I'd say once, and somebody absolutely has to take their bag, I think that'll be a red flag for the resource officer to, maybe think, okay, we got a kid I may need to keep an eye on. Then again, they just might have wanted to take it.
I have no doubt that bag will get searched by either a school administrator or at the request of an administrator by an officer, if that happens.
Well, I mean, is that where we're stepping on a gray area? I think one of your concerns is if the student absolutely takes that bag with them, do we have that right to search that bag at that point?
Well, according to Dr. Thompson, your attorneys are the ones who wrote the language and said that you have the authority to tell them to leave that bag. If they are going against what they're being told, I believe that that's a violation of school rules right there. They're insubordination or whatever it's called in your school. If a teacher or an administrator tells you you will leave your bag there and you say, no, I'm not, I'm taking my bag, it's violating school rules. Yeah. So then you go to handle it that way. On an administrative level, search the bag as you can as an administrator and look for it that way.
I think that's where Lisa's concern was, because in what district was that? District 8 in Missouri?
Circuit Court.
Circuit Court, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
They'd said, yes, that's fine, but that hasn't been established in our circuit court.
There was no seizure in that case.
Yeah.
So it was different.
That's above my intelligence.
Yeah. There was a factual dispute on whether his backpack or her backpack was actually seized, so it never even went that far. So to your question, Brett, if I was that student and I said, you're not looking in my backpack, I refuse.
Yeah.
Right? And then if they look, then then we have to prove that it was reasonable. So that's what it comes down to.
So I'll put my 2 hats on. All due respect.
No problem, Captain.
I absolutely, we have 3 canines in the community I work in, and if this was my community and I had to come and talk, I'd be saying the exact same things you're saying. Absolutely, because you are requesting my presence, and you're requesting me to do a search of this room. They're not directing people to stay or leave, to keep their backpacks or leave.
Right.
So to be very honest with you, if it would ever get challenged, yeah, they're in the challenge, but to a lesser role. We are the ones that are going to be challenged because we set the policy that then asks them to come in. They're just coming in on good faith that you're asking them to do a service for them. They're not part of the policy. We're the policy. And we're the people requesting the service based on the policy. So if anybody's going to object, they're going to object to us,
Right.
not to the police department. They're not going to be looking to, the money that's going to work through this objection and appeal possibly is coming out of our pocket. Maybe a little bit out of theirs, but not to the extent. It won't. Probably not. So that's just, I'm just telling you that to think about. Their intentions are great. Our intentions are very good too, but when it comes right down to it, we're setting the policy.
After talking and listening to this, I'm just the fact that you're trying to adapt and your advice on that, and your experience in the parking lot. The fact is, we're trying to reach out to parents, identify these things. I'm willing to see how this goes for a year. As is.
You know, there's no one in this room that can't agree that we have a growing epidemic out there, especially with heroin. And while I'm not sold that we have a heroin issue at the high school, I believe we have an opiate issue that's starting there, because it starts usually with opiates, grows to that. The cost thing, we can't always look at the cost thing on issues like this. To have positive results, be it education or trying to protect our children, there's expenses to that. A number of years ago, in fact, I'm pretty sure I was the only one on the board at the time, voted to pay an administrator for a year not to do her job because I didn't think she was safe around students. I took a lot of heat for that. It wasn't a cheap ticket. I would do it 1,000 times over again. I think in this case we have tools in front of us that can possibly save some lives, and I think we should try using it. We're not talking about violating an adult's rights. These are still children. And as such, they don't enjoy the same freedoms, in my mind, that we would have out in the public. They're possibly bringing stuff into our schools, mixing it with, interacting with our children, and I think we have an obligation to use the tools that are available to us to try to protect them.
The only thing I disagree with is that we sit here and we talk a lot about best practices. And to me, a best practice is not only what people perceive to be the best practice, but it's a proven practice. And I'm concerned that this might be, and it may very well be, the best practice in the future. I'm not sure that we can really term this at this point as the, and I'm talking about from a school board member's perspective, not law enforcement. But I don't think that we can term this as a best practice right now because it's not proven, and I don't want to be the one that has to put the bill to prove. We're doing a lot of things in the schools right now.
We are.
And Kelly, I have to tell you, I appreciate you bringing this forward. I mean, between drug testing and this, these are two huge steps that 99% of school districts in the state are not doing. And we've taken a leap on one, and I think it's going to prove to be very successful. But I mean, I'm always willing to listen to more. I'm just not there yet with this one.
There is more risk here than our random drug testing. I acknowledge that. And I'm absolutely fine from a district perspective. It was important for us to bring it forward. We had, parents and, from our surveys and, administration talking about it. It's important for us to bring it forward to the board. Waiting a year, if we feel like it's the next tool we bring out, I would be absolutely supportive of that also.
In your next high school probably survey to parents, and I don't know if we can have one where this is just a side topic during the next survey that you send out, but why don't we ask the specifics? This is a draft of just that first paragraph in the last, or the middle paragraph, that we are considering implementing into our search policy.
Well, the problem with that is we haven't voted yet, so it may not.
Well, what I'm saying is, if it doesn't pass, I mean, survey the parents and put out there, this is the terminology that we're looking to put into our search policy. And then a few, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions about agree or disagree, comfortable, not comfortable with this, that type of thing. I know you've heard stuff, but I'm not too sure we've ever really asked specific questions of parents.
The one thing to remember also is, in the event that, a lot of the cost issues that you're concerned about going forward, if we are challenged on this, those decisions of those costs aren't being made tonight.
No.
We make those decisions when and if that ever happens, how vigorously we're going to pursue that. So, in my mind, until then...
It's just hypothetical.
I know, right. And in my mind, until that happens, we don't have to make that decision, and I'm comfortable moving forward with it.
I did receive statewide heroin information just late last week, and Waukesha County, again, no surprise, is 4th in all the counties in the state of Wisconsin with the most heroin overdoses. So it's Milwaukee, and then Dane County, then Racine, and then Waukesha.
Is that per capita or just number?
Number.
Raw numbers.
Raw numbers.
Any further discussion? We'll do a roll hold on this.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, how's that work? Want something pop? Oh, there we go.
Oh, there it is.
Tony's working on the time delay.
Passes 4-3. If I'm reading that correctly.
Where do you see that? Oh, okay. Okay, got it.
All right, moving forward. Back to other reports. President's report.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
President's report. The only thing I want to bring up or ask, last time I brought it up also, the Chamber of Commerce, who we are a member of, is having a golf outing on 9/11, and we've typically put together a foursome. I'm planning on at least one foursome. It'd be nice if we could do two. I'm planning on golfing.
Actually, and I sent you an email. We have 7 altogether.
Do we?
Yes.
Including board members?
We don't have any other board member other than you.
Okay. So we got 8. Anyone else? We could put together 3 foursomes.
I'm showing up for the dinner, but I don't think I can get Tony to do that.
Have you seen Chris's golf game lately?
It's phenomenal.
Yeah,
Beyond
sure it
description.
is. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm debating. When do we have to know by?
Is it
Tonight yet?
Well,
No.
yeah, I did send her an email indicating we want 2 teams and ask her for their
Okay.
That's all I thought. That's no solution.
Yeah, I mean, if you can
I
decide.
haven't
next
golfed
week.
in a couple of years, but I'd be tempted to go out and have a good time.
Okay. All right, well, let us know, like, tomorrow if you can.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Board member reports? Anyone? Talkative bunch. There are no committee reports. There's no student representation. Public forum. This is your opportunity. If anyone wants to discuss any topics with the school board, come to the microphone, state your name and address.
What happened to other reports? We used to have other.
Yeah, I think it would have.
I just have one, but I'll save it till.
Good evening. Hi, Clayton Kavanaugh. Address?
Address, yes.
West 162 South 7774 Seafarer Pass. Okay. First, I just want to start with a question, and you guys can't answer, right?
Direct. So.
Okay. So I'm just going to work on the assumption then that I am correct in what I'm saying. Okay. So what the question was going to be, obviously it's not rhetorical, is that the current policy involving like the replacement of physical education credit with a co-curricular sport involvement, that whole policy that you can exempt out of a semester if you're in a sport. I was just wondering if that counts for more than one, can you do that for more than one credit? Or if it counts as just one? Okay. Working on that assumption that I got no answer for. I would like to put forth the case that perhaps we should consider implementing that at a greater scale, exempting out of more physical education credits more than one time. Instead of that one semester credit, instead having every credit possibly, assuming that the student in question has participated in the sport that year. So I'm just going to go through this as the policy as I understand it right now. Suppose a student would like to exempt a semester of physical education. They would be required to participate in the sport for that entirety of that season. That's pretty basic. And if they drop out of the sport, I'm assuming they probably wouldn't receive that credit. I don't know, but that's how I understand it. And in the case of participation in multiple sports, the participant can only receive that one credit, obviously. And that's the policy as I understand it right now. But I think that we could further our education better if we could replace these courses with courses that we believe will further our academic education instead of our physical. Because me, going into my third year of high school, having participated in a season of track and going into my third season of cross country, I know for a fact that I'm being much more physical in those sports than I am in a gym class. And while I do value I understand the value of the education of learning what we're supposed to learn in gym classes, I value more the education of the students and what they want to go for in the rest of their lives. And this is when you start to focus on what you're going to do and what you really enjoy doing and what you really want to learn about. For example, I would like to get involved in more AP courses or another business course or law course, that kind of a thing. And I know that many students, myself included obviously, would benefit from this and would be much more academically driven if this was implemented, to have more than one course, have the ability to exempt out of more than one course of gym class. Because in gym class, you don't exactly learn life skills as I've understood it. You learn how to play ultimate frisbee. And while that's a great sport, I don't think that is of greater value to me and to really anyone else who takes their academics seriously than really learning things that could further your life as you know it. So I would like to give it to you guys and to consider possibly furthering that policy to make education and the school more academically driven.
Thank you.
Thank you, Clayton.
If you leave an email or contact information, we could have somebody actually have a conversation with you back and forth and kind of explain the state statutes that are in play that kind of control what we do on this. So it might be able to answer some of your questions a little more. So if you would leave that information on the card, we would be glad to get back to you on it.
Can I say one more thing, Ben?
What?
Not in response, because I can't do that. I can't do it. But as I understand it, actually, like the school district, and this is probably a much more complicated legal case, but we just, as a district, fought the Michelle Obama health plan idea, and I was, you know, as a district, we fought that, and we apparently won, or we're just kind of
No, we just
doing
exercised an option, and I know I'm just hypothetically talking here.
Hypothetically, I didn't hear anything. Yeah, so it's exercising an option, and if there's an out for that, I'm assuming there's a possibility, perhaps, for this kind of an out, and I know that it's probably more strict in that case, but just
leave some contact information. We've got a much greater discussion then. Thank you very much. Anyone else for public forum?
Excellent job, by the way.
Yes, I can just.
As always, we appreciate you coming.
Moving on. Is that just a standing thing? Yeah. All right. Moving back to resolution action items, 5A, 2014-2015 budget.
Motion to approve a 2014-2015 all funds budget of $65 million. Hold on one moment. Hold on one moment, please. I gotta get the right number here, please. Okay. All funds budget of $65,058,592.
Can I give a motion to approve?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kelly.
Okay, there are a number of things that were included in the packet. One is the standard DPI format that you looked at the last meeting, with a few adjustments that I noted in the comments. If you want to first go to the 2014-15 budget assumptions and projections, this is an updated document that we brought forward originally in March and have updated based on our current information. Basically, it shows the expenditure and revenue assumptions that were made back in March and how those numbers have changed since that time. I can go through them briefly. We originally anticipated utility rates to go up 5%. We are now anticipating a 3.6% increase. Transportation, we are estimated at 2.5%, and we bid out a 2% increase to the contract for the next 2 years. Our property liability and workers' comp, we anticipated a 15% increase, and due to the bid process, we actually are lowering our rates by about 1%.
What's the total dollar amount for that? About?
The difference between the 15%.
No, just what do we pay?
We pay about $430,000 total for that line item.
That's about a $4,000 fee. Does that have anything to do with our safety plan?
Well, the safety plan actually helped us to not have our workers' comp rates go up significantly. So that was a big piece of it. The other piece was the competition between vendors. It just drove the prices down on the liability side as well.
Because Jeremiah was working pretty hard last year on safety in the schools.
Absolutely. He's done a really, really good job. And actually, when we did the renewal, the companies that bid on the contract stated that for the workers' comp, you know, our mod actually went up, which means that our rates should have gone up, but because of the program that's in place and the things that have been set up in our schools, we're not seeing that increase. So
does the mod go up? Is the mod based on just the prior year, or is it?
It's a 4-year calculation.
So we may have had less claim, but 4-year average.
We still have 1 year that at the end of this year will drop off. Once that drops off, we're going to be in a much better position.
All right.
Our health and dental insurance, we're looking at an 11%. We're estimating 11% increase, and again, that's for 6 months because we have a January 1 renewal, and that's going to remain about the same. We don't have numbers in yet for the health and dental. District salary adjustments, we budgeted the 1.46%, which is the CPI increase. And then through attrition and staff realignment, we looked at a 2% decrease was our goal to balance the budget, and we're actually seeing a 3.2% decrease. And that's mainly a result of hiring at different rates of what people have left either through retirement or resignation. On the revenue side, we knew based on the state budget that we were going to be receiving $75 more per student this year than we did last year. We're not anticipating a change in special education reimbursement rate. Our general aid, we anticipated going up 0.57%. It's actually decreasing 0.16% overall in the budget. And we are looking at an increase in open enrollment. We looked at about an $80,000 increase. We're actually looking at about $113,000 based on where our numbers are at. So those are the assumptions.
And congratulations, Julie, for all of your hard work and work with not only staffing, but the bidding process for many of those items that really helped our district.
Thank you. Okay, the next document that we can look at is the budget forecast model output summary. And this is, again, just a snapshot of our district, the past 2 years of history, as well as our proposed for 14-15. Again, talking through some of the proposed scenarios. The enrollment growth, we're looking at a 0% change. The per pupil increase, as noted before, was $75. We still have our equalized valuation growth at about 1.5% decrease. I do have a call into the city to see if they've gotten any new numbers on assessments. I think it usually happens at the end of August, though. So we'll make an adjustment when we get those final numbers in. And then our Fund 10 revenues and expenditures, we're showing a balanced budget of $52,171,179. Our fund balance for the general fund is listed there. You'll see in 13-14 that the unaudited numbers are showing that we're rolling about $471,000 into fund balance. There may be a few adjustments to that number, but they won't be significant. So we did put money into fund balance in 13-14, bringing our fund balance up to $18.7 million for this upcoming year. We don't anticipate a change in fund balance, so it'll remain the $18.7 million in 14-15. An overall school tax levy of $32,453,539. And based on an equalized valuation, that's about $11.26 per thousand for the tax rate. And again, that's not the tax rate necessarily that taxpayers will see because it's based on assessed. If we want to go to the levy, oh yes, of course.
So why do we think that our enrollment's not going to change when our trend has been basically reduction in enrollment?
So this enrollment projection is based off of how it will affect our revenue limit, the overall revenue limit cap. And because if we drop below a zero change, if we actually decline, there's declining enrollment exemption that kicks in, so we don't lose any dollars on the revenue limit formula.
Okay.
It'll actually be a 3-year rolling average that will impact us. So by putting in zero, we can decrease and still not change our overall revenue limit cap, which wouldn't change our levy.
But we would get less aid.
Well, that would be the estimate for this year for enrollment is our aid for next year. So we know what our enrollment is going to be because it's based off of last year's enrollment for our aid for this year.
So enrollment isn't going to have any bearing on what we do. Our third and Friday count will have no bearing on this year's budget.
The open enrollment numbers would be the only one that would have an impact. Now, if our numbers go up, that would impact us in a positive way.
Right.
But that is correct.
Okay, and then the question I had is, so from this I can see that our levy is going to decrease about $150,000.
Correct.
And our budget is going to increase about $2 million.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, if we want to go to the levy tab or the levy attachment that's in the packet, again, this is historical information as well as our unaudited actuals for 13-14. Again, we make that comment until our actual audit is finalized before December. Our working budget levy for this year, we do have to break out how we're levying our funds. So our Fund 10 levy is at about $28.8 million. The Fund 39 levy is our referendum debt that we have to budget for every year, and that comes to about we're just under $3 million for that. Our Fund 38 levy is our non-referendum debt, and you'll see the Fund 38 offset. We actually have a negative there, and that's the subsidy that is in place. So it's a 0% loan, so we actually pay the interest and then get reimbursed. The Fund 41 levy we established last year, we'd like to continue that, and that helps us to reduce the impact of our costs for capital projects so that the actual cost of it is amortized over a couple of years so we don't realize the loss of aid in the year that we're actually making the expenditure. And then our Fund 80 levy is our community service fund, and that's set at $95,000, and that hasn't changed. The chargeback levy is simply a number that we get when we levy for taxes. This is the unpaid taxes from the community, and so what we're allowed to do is we're allowed to levy for that the next year to recoup what we didn't receive from them.
So your Fund 80 levy is $95,000?
Correct.
Just keep that in mind until the next one. I got a question.
Because the revenues look higher because of fees. Yep. Okay, so we're showing an overall levy decrease of about 0.5%. Again, that's a little bit of a difference, but in 13-14, how our shared costs come in, so how much we spend in our general fund impacts how much aid we get the next year. So as that fluctuates with the audit, the aid will fluctuate slightly and so will the tax levy. But right now we're looking at a 0.5% decrease. Fourth year in a row of a decreased levy. And the last document is the DPI wonderful on the eyes Excel document. And we kind of went through this at the last meeting, so I'd be happy just to answer questions unless you want me to go through it line by line.
No, it's made us.
I had a couple questions, but I have to. Payments for services. Why is that increased by $300,000? It's under 340. Third subsection down.
So this is our open enrollment amount, and that's increased because of an increase in not only the amount per student, but also the number of students.
Julie, I can ask, in your first memo, the budget assumptions,
correct,
you state that at the top paragraph, to balance the budget and stay under the revenue limit. What's the effect if we stay under the revenue limit over the next couple of years? Does that affect what we can
stay at the revenue limit? I
okay.
should have been specific.
Stay at or under is what you want.
At or under, correct.
So we are at the revenue limit.
You're at the revenue limit.
Okay. Thank you.
Under subtotal state sources,
yes.
State aid,
yes.
That shows like a $100,000 increase.
So if you remember in the state budget, we not only received $75 more per student on the revenue limit side, but we received $75 per student for a total of $150, and half of that was actually outside the revenue limit in categorical aid. So they gave us additional aid per student, which is
so
what that
the year before it was just 75.
Correct.
And now it's 150.
Correct.
Okay. Sorry, it's taking so long. I had to do it by $95,000. Should have used my notepad on here. Notes.
Actually, the notepad does work pretty well.
So he's looking. Can I ask about 870 long-term obligations?
Yep. Those are our capital leases for technology that we've had over the last 2 years.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So last one,
Mhm.
Community Service Fund.
Yes.
What line are we looking at?
It's the last one under Community Service Fund, Fund 80. So that's our start-end balance,
Correct.
followed by total revenues.
So we not only receive the levy of $95,000, but we also receive revenues for the various community programs that we may offer, like the swim and those types of things, and then also rentals of the facilities.
Right, so wouldn't your ending balance be higher than that, though? I mean, if we're basically getting a 95 plus, what, 12,000?
Mm-hmm.
And we're only going to spend 95. But
We spend more than 95.
We do. What do we spend the excess on?
Utilities, we can charge utilities for the PAC and also utilities for services for outside events and weekends and things like that. We can designate that. We also purchase equipment for the PAC out of there and pay for some of the student workers as well as the PAC manager salary.
Okay, so basically we're spending the 95, which we've always had in that fund, budget, plus any revenues we're also spending.
If we need to. And sometimes we don't. I mean, we do go over. You know, if you look at this year, we only started with the $91,000 fund balance, beginning balance in 13-14. We did add to that fund balance because we didn't have the expenses this year. So it's more of on an as-needed basis.
So this is such an old issue, but I thought at one time there was some agreement as to what was going to be budgeted and spent there. And it basically was what was set to be, what was budgeted to be spent, which to me is the 95,000. And it's probably not worth even arguing over, but I'm not sure the intent of that Fund 80 was the way it was set up when the PAC and the big rigmarole happened around that.
Which none of us were here for.
Right, but as a community member, I do remember that whole conversation, and I'm not too sure that the discussion at the school board level was ever what's budgeted plus revenues. I think it was always $95,000 will get spent in that facility, and if you bring in revenue, that's good. That's paying. I think the intent initially is that you would bring in $95,000 of revenue to pay for that fund, but we knew that was never going to happen. That's not even realistic. But I'm not too sure that the intent was ever spend the 95 and the revenues. I think it was spend the 95 minus the revenues. So I don't know if we want to go there, but I guess it's past. It's so far past at this point that no one's ever really kept track of how that thing has developed. But
we'd have to change our philosophy, I guess, on Fund 80 and what we're doing, not only just in the PAC, but overall, anything that goes into there. I mean, you'd almost have to look at doing more programming or something like that if you want to start bringing down that number.
You mean outside programming? Yeah, revenue generating outside programming.
Yeah, offer daycare in the summer or something like that with fun kids stuff or, basketball leagues.
We're talking about $12,000 in revenues that I thought the intent was back when this whole thing occurred was going into your fund balance.
Yeah, and I would say from remembering, actually I'm not sure if I was either in the audience or watching it on TV and watching what was pretty much a circus on that meeting, that was the argument that they're going to bring in that 95 and more
And to be honest with you, it wasn't even 95.
No, it was 35,000 or something like that. Yeah, it was something a lot lower than what it is. But I guess I'm not looking back here. Probably 12, 14 years later, what some previous board had done that none of us served on. I guess I'm not too concerned what their intentions were versus
Well,
what ours are. It's more of what we as a board want to do today.
Yeah, and I think it's $12,000 that we can keep in mind if we feel we need $12,000 to balance a budget, or instead of cutting a special ed need.
Yeah, you can't.
can't.
That's true.
It's completely independent.
But why did the revenues go? Okay.
The only thing that we can do is transfer money, the expense of utilities out of Fund 10, so it actually helps to create that additional.
Yeah, you could put more expenses into Fund 80. There's things that we could take out of the general operating and probably allocate them to Fund 80 that we're not doing now.
All right. Anyways, let's move on.
It's getting very audited, though.
Well, I'm not saying make stuff up. I think there's probably legitimate things that
People are becoming more and more aware of Fund 80.
Yeah.
There's new rules, and you have to actually pass a resolution if you want to go any higher than where you're at. So.
Any other questions on the budget from this half of the table? Anyone?
One quick question on the whole.
I said this half.
You're accused of all the questions from this half.
Sorry, this has been. Go on, Mr. Hyde.
Okay, real quick question. We're motioning to approve the all funds budget.
So we added up the expenditures of all of the different.
But how does that affect our vote in November or in October when we have the?
This is for publication.
This is just for publication.
Yeah, so what we'll do, if this is approved tonight, then we'll actually publish a more condensed version of that Excel document in the newspaper. It'll go in the annual meeting booklet. You'll actually approve the levy based on these numbers at the annual meeting, and 5 minutes later when we enter into the new meeting, we'll bring you the final numbers.
And I just want to clarify, this is our proposed budget that's being published.
It's the preliminary, correct.
Thank you.
So this is the one that's going to print?
Yes.
That's pretty early. Why are we doing so early? Don't we usually do it after the third Friday comes?
It makes it really hard to get publishing done quickly and have those books available, so.
Yeah.
We typically have only had a little swing, I think, in our revenues from the third Friday counts, right? So.
Any other questions, comments? Got all your questions answered, Mr. Schrader, or would you like to?
I could get back to my budget document here. Use this stuff. It's very difficult. We can move on. I guess I can always throw some stuff in at the end of the day.
Well, it'll be part of the annual meeting booklet that we'll talk about under discussion tomorrow.
I didn't know we were approving this. My fault. Okay. Go ahead.
All those in favor of the motion as presented, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you for all your work, Julie. Eric, thank you for your questions. They actually help educate the board and get us to dive deeper into it. Moving on to resolution action items 5B, policy number 2510 and administrative guidelines, adoption of textbooks, third reading.
Sure.
Discussion? Questions?
I just have a question. I apologize for asking this on the third reading. I missed it I missed the first reading. Why are we? Two questions. How does this differ from what we currently have in place, and why are we doing this now?
Sure. Well, two things. One, the process is actually quite similar to the process that we already had in terms of the curriculum adoption process or the textbook adoption process. It was updated with more specifics. Some of the timeline was adjusted in terms of trying to get pre-approval on if it was something that was going to be proposed, know about it sooner rather than later. So if there was going to be a pilot, it would be a fall pilot, which would give us then the spring to look at the results of the pilot and have a spring recommendation. We've had some spring pilots, and it just makes it a little bit tighter in terms of decision making. So that was one of the reasons. The other is we're going through the Neola process and aligning our policies. And so that was a perfect time to align with the Neola policy and embed some of the timelines and things that we are currently using. So that really is it.
And wanting it approved by the time the cycle would start essentially for next year.
Yeah, timing-wise, why we're doing it now, yes.
And again, I apologize for the third reading, but then I attend this conference and then
That's why we have 3 readings. So.
all this stuff came up. So the only thing I hear that there were a lot of districts at this WSB conference that were talking about textbook evaluation. So they have a question or a statement about the parents. Does the textbook allow for the parents to understand and help guide their kids? Or math in particular, does the text provide ample examples, or is the text parent friendly, where they can go home and the parents are able to actually follow through and help out? A lot of districts apparently were incorporating that in their textbook evaluations. Just thought I'd bring that up. I'm not sure what we do or if that's done somewhere else.
No, so here's 2 ways parents would be involved is when we are going through a pilot. Typically part of that pilot is then a parent survey. I know when we were going through our elementary pilot, then part of that was a survey to parents about the interactions with their students at home and how that resource served them. And then also on the curriculum planning committee, we have parents as part of the team. So that's another place where parents have input in the evaluation of the tools.
Okay, so somewhere, and I have no issue with this. I was just, as long as it's somewhere, I guess, that was just feedback. Occasionally, I'm sure we all receive that, where the children come home and parents want to provide that guidance, but especially in math, the way it's being taught. Not that someone can't add 2 + 2, but how is it being taught to add 2 + 2? So, all right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Any other questions? All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Resolution action item 5D, CSIC contract amendment.
Motion to approve a CSIC contract amendment for the addition of 1 seat at Project Success.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Anything to add on this, or just adding a seat?
I'm just here to answer any questions somebody might have.
So I assume we're just adding a seat because we need one at this time?
It's actually a seat that was held last year and wasn't amended to the contract originally. So it's something that it's a continuum of a placement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Resolution action item 5E. Donation.
Thanks for answering all our questions, Kari.
Motion to accept with thanks the donation of $3,565.76 from Lakeshore Medical Clinic for the Strength and Conditioning Program.
Second.
Discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is nice. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Donations passed unanimously. Moving on to discussion items. Item 6A, 2014-15 Annual Meeting Draft Booklet.
So as we did last year, we brought forward the annual meeting booklet in draft form. Some pages, if you open it up, are not updated yet. And Julie and I can answer any questions. And we're keeping it the same, and we're just updating the information. Right? There isn't anything added or deleted from.
It says a draft booklet will be provided for the board's review.
It is.
It is.
Is it attached?
It's not attached on this?
Oh, I took that to mean that.
Oh, you would.
Oh, physically?
Physically, we were.
So it's been outdated since the weekend, just with a few more slides. I'm still waiting on responses from some of the districts to do the tax levy comparison because some of them are still getting back to me. And then also, again, keeping in the dollar bill, that was one thing that was important. If the budget were $100, what would that look like? I'm going through that process right now. We have the impact of the taxes on the average homeowner in Muskego, Norway. And then something that wasn't in the book last year but was in previous years, and then I got a number of calls on after the books went out, was the Lake Dunoon High School debt summary. So I added that back in, and I'll be updating that to reflect our payments up to this point.
So on page 10, you show us having an increased tax levy. Is that correct?
Page 10. These are old numbers. That bottom section is still old. On top, I believe I noted that it's a 0.5% decrease in the second to last bullet. Actually, I can, up until this point, many of the school districts are actually showing an increase in tax levy, so we're going to be in the bottom end of the scale this year, for what I've seen so far.
Yeah, I like page 16. That's one of the questions we hear a lot. When is our debt going to be paid off?
I like page 11. That was my favorite.
Anybody else want to give their favorite?
Anything missing?
Yeah.
Partial to that you'd want to see in the booklet?
I like the note page on the back. That's good. So I'll ask a question since you have this, we're kind of back on the budget again. And you have your little 16 through 18 page.
Yep.
So that everybody understands, I guess you just told me what the answer was, but I think it's kind of important to know. So I noted that we have a budget increase, we have a levy decrease, we have an aid decrease. So how does this add up?
The numbers, the reason that there's an increase to the budget that's so significant is because we have to add in, what we learned from DPI this year is that you have to add in, when you have the capital lease, the full value of the lease as well as the full cost of the expenditures so that they offset each other. And then the actual budget increase is only the lease payment. So you're showing the whole $700,000 as revenue, you're showing the whole $700,000 as expense. They offset each other. And then the actual capital lease payment that we'll pay of about $118,000 for that lease this year is the only increase to our budget. So it shows our budget's inflated by a significant amount. That's really because on both sides you see that the full value of the lease.
Is that new for this year, or is it always?
It's new for this year. I mean, it's always been that way, but it's new for us.
Okay.
We haven't done that practice before.
Okay.
Correct.
So we're just
We're reporting it correct. the correct way.
So you're budgeting 800 or 700,000 for the total.
About 725, yeah.
But we're really only paying 118.
Correct.
Towards it. So truly, there's like a $575,000 difference there.
Correct.
So our budget being over or up by 500,000 truly isn't.
Correct.
It's really down by 75,000.
Yes.
It's a good question, because that'll be helpful.
People will ask.
Yeah. Any other comments on the budget booklet?
So when you go to publication, are you still going to hold off for more information, or are you sending it now?
For this? For the, oh, okay.
You're sending what we approved here?
Right, and then it'll change, whatever changes need to be made will be made at the evening, the 8 o'clock board meeting, essentially. Is that correct?
You good? All right. This is just a discussion item. If you have anything else to add, I'm sure Ms. Kelly will accept emails from you. Moving on to item 6B, policy number 8390, animals on district property, second reading.
So Kari is here to answer any questions. There's only one small change, and that was to add the canine search dogs to the policy.
Probably a good idea.
Any other changes, Kari?
It was just the addition of the canine search component. Any questions?
All right, this will be coming back next meeting for third and final reading and for final vote. Information follow-up. Hearing none. A motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 8:35. Thank you.
Good job.
Well, okay, starting at 7, this makes so much difference.
Plus,
Yeah, you guys are terrible. But I do think that 7 is... Oh, so... Coincidence? No, I'm loving the 7 o'clock start. Well, or just not...